Welcome. Let's learn how to intersect with grid using the input layer of either daily amenities or shops with the grid layer. So you want to choose intersection from the processing toolbox with the input layer being the isochrones and the overlay being the grid itself. Let's retain the isochrone FID and the value, which is important to determine the input. Once this is done, you can repeat for the other isochrone as well. And once the selection is completed, you should see a result whereby the isochrone is cut with the grid itself. So bearing in mind that this is not just one set of isochrones, it's an isochrone of multiple places that sometimes overlap each other. It is important that after we have saved the file, we should try to also calculate the value per grid cell and later on sum it up again so that we have one flat isochrone within the grid value. So after saving and renaming this intersected isochrone, we should go to the shapefile via attribute table, turning on the fill calculator by making this attribute table editable. And in the fill calculator, we should create a new fill. You can call it value I call it here value S2, it doesn't matter, with the type real or with decimal number. And we're gonna input an expression by clicking from the middle panel, selected the field value times bracket the geometry of $area, which is the area of whatever is cut or shown up as an object, divide by 10,000 meter squares, which is a complete area of a complete cell. This gives us a ratio in which to times the value and create a ratio version of the value. So for example, if the grid cell is not complete but only a part of it, that is how much value it should carry. So just double checking. Remember to exit the editing and saving your changes. I usually like to still do a check by visualizing it to make sure that I get a good sense of what it should look like. What you're going to see here is that we can really see these different isochrones per point of interest generated. And that is okay if you want it quick and dirty, but we actually need to merge that together in the next step. For merging it, we're going to use the statistic by categories tools in the processing toolbox. This allows us to ask the program to sum up everything that belongs to the same cell instead of leaving it as one layer above another. So the field to calculate on is of course value, and then the field with which to categorize the statistics is of course the ID, which is the name of the cell. You can think about it that way. So making those selections, we're gonna just run this and we should get actually a good statistical summary of the entire file, including the count of the values, the count of the FID, and what that looks like. So we're gonna take that, generate the attribute table back by putting it as a vector join to the grid itself, making sure we're choosing the right join layer and the right join fill and target fill for attaching it back to the grid. I'm just double checking. Statistics by category, it only has FID, so that's great. And then we'll just make sure it's FID also here. Here you can also click on join field to decide what you want to retain. I like to give it a very short prefix so that when I see in the column, I know exactly which value this belongs to. So the naming convention here is value shops. You can name it whatever you want as long as you remember what it is. So just performing a final check, I usually like to do a visualization just to make sure that the outcomes is exactly what I'm looking for, which is a compressed version of the isochrone assigned to a grid and able to be compared and contrasted across multiple other factors that might be added to the grid. So here's a clear case of how absolute value doesn't serve us in understanding the image or the map itself. So you can actually assign a different legend here by calling it low, below average, average, above average, and high, just to give an indication of what it means when the reader sees a certain color. So comparing this to the earlier visualization of the video, you see how important it is to run the statistics by category step at this point. Thanks for watching.